Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. So go check them out as well. But it is Monday, so as always, Grumpy is in full effect. Reckless is in the cups. Mitush is here. What's happening?
Good morning. I'm here. It's a day. It's a Monday.
It's a day.
It's just another day. We're just here again, and we're gonna talk about some stuff. So hello.
Yeah, a lot to talk about too. I mean, some interesting stuff from yesterday's game, but then more stuff came out afterwards. So we'll probably start with that because I'm sure we'll dissect the heck out of the game tonight anyway. But which I don't even know. I say that, but I don't know how much you can take away from this game and dissect tactically and stuff like that as well. But there's definitely some performances that you were like, gives a sign for the future kind of deal. But let's start with this because this came kind of right after the game. So it was Twitter, then it was Instagram, then it was X, then it was Twitter, then it was Instagram. So it is the Instagram accounts, correct? You are the young social media experts that we have in our residence here at American Scouser. But he deleted all his Liverpool stuff.
Yeah.
And the assumption is that it was due to abuse, like online abuse he was getting. Do you buy that? Because I'm assuming that just didn't stop. I mean, there was nothing in the Spurs game. I mean, there was a couple of Nunez moments, I guess. But there was nothing that made you say, God damn it, Nunez. And then, I mean, these social media abusers that you can't put common sense to it, but still, like, there was nothing from yesterday's game. So is the timing kind of weird? That was the weird part to me, at least.
No, I mean you think there was nothing from yesterday's game, but when you go to the full time comment section of the official Liverpool post after a game that they won 4-2, it's just a bunch of bashing on Nunez still. Like, if you go to that post and see, it's just a bunch of comments about Nunez, and some of these online fans are the worst, absolute worst people in the world. Like, it just, I know that we in the Discord channel or on this show or on Facebook or whatnot amongst each other, we will say certain things, right? It's one thing to have an opinion. It's another thing to go and personally attack someone on their own social media, to send them DMs, to send them stuff about their family. Like, I don't blame Nunez at all. It's been going on for months. Before it was Gakpo that was receiving a ton of it, and now it's Nunez that's been receiving it for the last month or so, maybe about 2 months. And he already had comments turned off, but now he's just gone and deleted everything. And I don't blame the guy. I mean, it's honestly pathetic to see people say what they're saying and doing what they're doing. And for anyone who's thinking, oh, well, it's just whatever, you should get over it, it's not a big deal. He's a human being. Like, can you imagine thousands and thousands of people rushing to your DMs, to your Instagram, to your whatever, and telling you that you should die, that you should leave the club, that you're not good enough, that this and that. Like, that takes a toll, you guys. And I don't want anyone to think that they would be above that in a sense, because that you don't know until you've really been through it.
I mean, that's the problem, right? Sergi says there's a statement that's come out that Nunez has deleted all his Instagram Liverpool stuff because his family was getting abused on IG. I guess a couple of questions here. The timing, like I say, it was odd to me, and I didn't expect it, but I'm not surprised that you're telling me that there was like abuse after yesterday's game. I don't know how, but why leave the other? I mean, he left the other stuff on there, but comments are turned off, I think, right? So you can't go in there and put anything in there. I just found, I mean, yeah, it should be a way to, I don't know, like you can temporarily deactivate your account or anything like that. Never like tried it, but I just don't know. I mean, look, I can definitely see it. Hey, I mean, we're obviously, what is it? What was it, like 4 million or something he has? Yeah, 4 million. So obviously we're never gonna be anywhere near that as American Scouser, but we even get some crap. And then it's easier to look past the crap, I think, when it's one or two and people giving shit to John or something. But yeah, when you have 4 million and you have like thousands of these coming in, it's just like ridiculous. And I think the Liverpool stuff, Cosgrove says comments were turned off on the other posts. I think originally Liverpool posts, at least I read, I mean, I don't even know if I follow them, to the social media accounts. And let me ask you this: if you're famous, if well, when you're famous and you have 4 million followers,
Yeah.
as like like fashion experts, American Scouts, or pundit, like all these accolades that you have, would you still stick with your social media accounts, knowing the hate you get? Does the good outweigh the bad?
It's hard because
And what is the good, by the way?
I mean, the good. There's probably some sort of uh, way to connect with different people, like different teammates that you've had or different friends. When I'm just staying connected in that sense, the good maybe in some like in Cristiano Ronaldo's case, the good is earning was it $2 million for every Instagram post that he does. Um, I wish I could sit here and say how I would feel and how I would react, but I really don't know. I feel like if I was getting so much flack and my family was being abused, like it would make me want to completely turn it off. I don't know.
That's why, like, I understand that, like, the financial gain of it is that even like, I mean, obviously for your Ronaldo, I mean, I know what Ronaldo has, but I mean, is it even worth the financial headache? I mean, this whole thing of connecting with the fans and stuff like, and that's why I don't really follow a lot of the players' accounts, because really,
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, in my personal account, I don't think I follow anybody. Cersei says Matush is the Prince of Poland. His citizen love him. You know what?
Let's please not spread that.
Yeah, you don't know in the background the stuff that's being said and written. Just it's pretty strict over there. Media is really harassed by Matush.
Why do you think I live in the States?
Yeah, he's just running away from the Polish paparazzi over there. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see why a player would even put up with it. And I don't understand. I mean, I don't think we'll ever understand the people doing the abuse, right? I think over time we've talked so much about this. There is no way for me to comprehend what that person is thinking.
The abuser.
The abuser.
Yeah. I some sense of feeling like you're entitled to have a say in this person's life, whether it be how you talk to them or how you treat them. It's a very weird thing. I know, we feel connected to the club in one way or another, but it's almost like you're trying to take it to a level that doesn't exist. And maybe you feel like if you can break down that barrier there and get through them like that, then you're part of the club even more because you're able to get through to them. I don't know. It's a really, really disgusting thing to have to go through. And I just checked because I was curious as well. Liverpool took down their post-match Instagram post that they usually have, like final score and whatnot. They do on every match. It's not any different than any other game. And that one for the Spurs game is gone. Like they've removed that one too. And that's a big thing for the club to have to remove that after a fucking win.
Yeah.
4-2, and where he had just 15 minutes off the bench, and yet he's still getting all this abuse in that post. It just doesn't make sense. I understand being frustrated with the guy. I understand he might not be the striker. I understand that it's, that he might not have everything that you want him to have, but to go to those lengths is just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know. I feel like maybe it starts in the little groups and then it spreads, and then when it spreads it gets even worse.
And it's one, I mean, I don't know what was said, or like how his family was getting abused. I don't know what some of these comments are. I mean, we talk a lot of shit about him. I mean, we joked about it and stuff like that, the offside thing and all that. And I think people have to understand that it is still okay to criticize a player and how they're playing and stuff like that, and be objectively be able to look at it. It doesn't mean, I think people are like, oh, these guys can't take any criticism. I think there's, you can criticize, as we do a lot of times, but there's a difference between doing that and then like messaging the guy and, wishing him to die or his family and stuff like that. I just don't even know what it accomplishes. And I know everybody's like, oh, those are not Liverpool fans and stuff like that. I hate to tell you, they might not all be, but a lot of them probably are Liverpool fans, unfortunately. And every player has gotten it. Do you think it affects the player in terms of like looking ahead to the future? Because every player does get it, or do they at this point realize it's just part of the deal? Like this is what you do. You kind of like punt it away, and then you come back. So this is that's why humanity sucks. I mean, yeah, social media has been everybody's like, oh, it's made it worse. I think it's just been a mirror. That's all it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I mean, if anything, if you had social media at any point in history, it'd be the same thing. I don't think we've really evolved that much as people, right? There's still we still have the same ridiculous disagreements that people have had for the last 2,000 years. Now we just do it through our phones rather than doing it, through the newspaper or doing it through scribes or whatever the case might be. I think part of the difficult thing, especially for Nunez, is that on the pitch and with fans around, like he's adored at the stadium, right? People will chant his name, people will enjoy what he's doing. And I think maybe that could also be a difficult thing to have, that feeling of you feel like you're doing. Obviously he's probably disappointed in some of the things that he hasn't been able to finish, but you're feeling like you're doing a good enough job. You have all these people that are singing your name, and then you go home and you find out that everyone hates you. Like that could be a really weird feeling. It's just like, well, then what is my purpose then? If are the fans that are singing my name, are those the real fans, or the real fans the ones that are calling me out, whatever the case? So yeah, it's a weird thing, and I can't really imagine what that feels like.
I mean, I assume it affects if you had any loyalty, right? Because there's like a lot of the fans are basically, I mean, good weather fans, if you will. Like they're there when things are rolling out, Nunez, but they can turn on you. I mean, if people can turn on you if you have a bad day, or if you have like a bad spell, in his case, I guess, that does not really make you feel comfortable. If you're in a friend group where everybody's like, great with you, but then if you have some troubles in your personal life, they're gonna like kind of kick you to the curb and talk shits. Do you really have friends? You really don't. You just like have a lot of acquaintances you kind of like hanging out with more than anything else. So as he says, Liverpool fans give racist abuse to that Spurs player at the beginning of the season. Which Spurs player?
I'm trying to remember what that is. I can't remember right now.
I don't remember this, to be honest with you. Our fans are not about, no. And then,
Yeah,
I love that, like, people are like, those are not Liverpool fans and stuff like that. If you don't think they're Liverpool fans, I got a bridge to sell you.
Newsflash: there's millions. Some of them are actually awful people, and it's you just love. You'll never walk alone until you have a bad spell of games. Then you can fuck off. Like that's pretty much how they're treated online.
And I think, here's the thing. You might not, Udogi, yes, that's right. I mean,
Yes.
you might not consider them real Liverpool fans, which I understand. But to say, oh, they're like opposing team fans is like a ridiculous, sweep under the rug attitude that I never get. And you see a lot of it online. Oh, those are not Liverpool fans. They are Liverpool fans. You might not consider them actual true fans, but they go around as Liverpool fans, and they talk as Liverpool fans and stuff. So I don't know, like it's a kind of like a tricky situation for the player to be in. I would think at this day and age, they know it's just part of the deal and not to take it too much, right? Like, I mean, like even like Van Dijk, I mean, you would think like, people around them who have been through ups and downs. I mean, even like Mo, like all that stuff like he got when like him and Mane thing was going on and stuff like that, probably from like Mane fans and all that. Like everybody has gotten this. I just don't know if a player's in a place they're like, no, man, people are shit. This is how it is. And that's why I never get mad at players for not being loyal, because let's face it, clubs are not really that loyal, and fans are not really that loyal.
Yeah, I mean, if you're performing well, they're loyal.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then they're waiting for the next transfer window to see how you can get replaced. Yeah, they're always looking toward the next window to see what else can be done, while not really appreciating what you have done. And I think maybe it's too late to defend Nunez on the field as much anymore, but I would be lying, and I think many people would be lying if they said that Newcastle brace at the beginning of the season wasn't one of the best moments of the year, to have him come off the bench, down a man, hit 2 in the side netting, within a couple minutes of each other, I think that's a moment that I will remember as a fan for a very long time. And I wish that there were more, that we would focus on moments like that. I understand it's difficult because it feels like the title was within touching distance and part of the bad form, especially with Nunez not really operating as well as he could have been. It really eats away at the thought of what could have been. But at the same time, Nunez playing poorly has also corresponded with the team playing poorly for the last 2 months. It's like almost they both have fallen off at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know what you asked me to begin with.
Well, Michael Scott there. Sometimes I start a sentence.
I'm gonna end it with a weird way. If to your point of the players expecting it, yeah. But I think once it starts reaching into their family kind of thing, that's another level that I think that they shouldn't, that they don't want to have to just put up with. Like, I wouldn't want to have to put up with things being said about my wife, about things being said about a child if I had one, right? Like, that's just stuff that you don't cross that kind of line.
It's almost like, yes, that's where you would draw the line. You're like, fuck all this shit to me, I don't care. But when it goes there, I can see him saying, you know what, that's enough though. That's where I cut it. Because that's, I think, where I would cut it. So you can talk all the shit you want to me, and I couldn't care less. But when you start insulting, I mean, I had somebody, I don't know if we talk. I mean, this is way back. I think it was in the US fan group. This dude like saying shit about like my dog, because like my profile on Facebook, anybody was like,
I remember that.
Do you remember that? Yeah,
I remember. I remember that.
And that's when, I mean, any dad listening, watching knows that that's kind of like that's switches, flips the switch, and that there's like that's the line, and I can understand. Same thing with like the spouse thing. I mean, there's certain that you when you cross the line and attack the family, say to me like I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know soccer, blah blah blah, whatever. Yep. I couldn't care less. I know what I know, and I know what you know, or whatever. But when you attack like the wife and the kids and stuff like that, that's when the switch gets flipped and you attack it totally differently, because it almost like becomes more personal somehow. So I can understand why he would say, okay, this is where I'm drawing the line. I just found it odd that he wouldn't like somehow, or these guys don't have a way to temporarily pause the accounts instead of going in and removing all the, like, if the comments were off, why did he remove all the Liverpool stuff?
Yeah, I guess that I don't know entirely. That's a tough one, because it's obviously intentional, right? There's a lot you have to go through,
but not the profile picture.
Well, yeah, but the profile picture is of his name and his number, so it's not necessarily Liverpool. It's still Liverpool, but it's still more so him than the club, if you know what I mean.
I guess, yeah.
So, yeah, it's obviously very intentional, and he's always received a lot of support from Uruguay, so it's not surprising to see that those are the family is in the top, and then he's got the national team there. But yeah, it's I don't know where to go with the intentional taking off the posts. And, there's every chance that, because on Instagram you can, it's called archiving them. You can just hit the archive button and it doesn't delete it, but it hides it from the profile. So you can always put it back. So I don't know if that's something that he chose to do, or if he just deleted it. We don't know for sure until, if they suddenly pop all back up, then they were just archived for a bit. So yeah, I don't know where to go from there with that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is surely he has a social media person working for him. I mean, it's probably a social media company working for him, really, like multiple people, I would think. I don't think he spent hours like deleting the posts one by one, but I mean, for him to give the order to like take all Liverpool, I guess he can be just in a pissed off mood and be like, take all Liverpool shit down.
Yeah, I mean, that's
to him, it's Liverpool fans doing it.
Yeah, then that's because like you said, I can't expect him being in the locker room after the game, scrolling through his phone, and then one by one just that would I
got only 187 left, almost done here.
There were a lot of pictures there, I can tell you that.
Yeah, see, like I was not like I I don't know, like it's always, good game by the boys, blah blah blah, and then not what we wanted, we go again, and so I mean, like I don't see anything in there that I'm like and honestly anything worthwhile seeing, I guess, whether it's like a cute thing or somebody's kid or something like that, is usually posted in somewhere else on social media, so I will see it from there. So I don't think I follow any of those anybody famous. I mean, aside from you, I don't follow anybody like really like famous on social media to see what they're up to or anything like that. It's usually like friends and family and stuff. But
you would just hope that after a win, after a decent performance, that the last thing we have to talk about is something like this, right? There's 2 games left now in Jurgen Klopp's tenure as a Liverpool manager, and we have to talk about this because some of our fans are absolute toxic dickheads. And there are fans like that in every fan base, and we are not any better than any other fan base because that stuff happens all the time still.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem, like after the game, I mean, and we did talk, we talked last night in the post match about like Nunez's performance, cracked a couple of jokes, and then we moved on. We weren't like, okay, once the show is over, let's go online and give his family some abuse.
As a team, we all go together.
That understanding, like, why don't we just freaking go and like abuse them? What are these people? Okay, so we talked about social media, right? And like kind of like giving a voice and a mirror to the horrible society that we live in. What did these people do like 20 years ago? Because they were there. Did they not feel empowered? Did they just write a letter to the editor? Because I mean, you couldn't like, like what do they do? Or is it just like years of not being able to do it? Is it just that like I can do it and I'm an asshole, so I will?
Probably, yeah, a lot of the latter there. I think how would they have done it? Whether it was maybe they did it more at the actual field themselves at the pitch. They would be shouting a lot more there. I don't know. You tell me. I didn't live through that.
What a jerk. What a freaking jerk. I mean, we used to just like carve it into the stones when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
I go way back. Yeah, I mean, I really don't think, I don't know, man. Like you want to, like the old guy wants to say, like society has gotten worse and stuff. I just don't think these people were there. These thoughts were there. The intentions were there. I think there was just no avenue for those people to do anything with it. But I even look at, I mean, this is really going to sound like, old man yelling at clouds, but I even look at like the media in the past. I mean, I remember like reading, and we were talking about this with my brother, who's even older than I am. So he was even around when the rocks were being like, he wasn't even in the carving period. It was even before that. And, we were talking about this, growing up, I remember reading specific writers. They're like corner, like they call them like back home. It was called like, like corner writers or whatever. And then, like after a game, what did they say? Because you didn't even get to watch every game and stuff like that. And it was not as I always feel like it was so much more soccer and it was so much more actual writing and journalism. It just feels like everything now is to get a click and everything now is to be the first one out there. I can't remember. I think I was watching like a reel the other day, like it was like Denzel Washington talking about, like now everybody just wants to be the first to get something out and they don't even care if it's right or wrong or whatever. And then once it gets out, it's like the wildfire spreads a lot faster than it used to. So you can't even retract the story now. It's out. It's gone. Yeah. But I don't know if it's the clicks, it's the money. I don't know what has happened, but I feel like, I mean, do you read? I don't like have people that I go, definitely not back home because that's become a shit show. But I mean, you look at even like Echo and stuff like that. It's just a shit show. Just say what, like nobody writes a headline now to give information. Every headline is to get a click. Is it? I think it's just the click financials of it, I guess, has put everything downhill.
That's exactly it, because all you want as a site, all you want as a writer, whatever the case might be, whatever editor, whatever website, whatever outlet, you just want people to go there. You don't really care what the content is to an extent, because you know that they'll probably just gloss over whatever's on there anyway. They just want you to get there in the first place. And if they can hook you by saying something, you're like, oh, what is this title? This is something I didn't expect. And you click on it, then they've already got you. And I think that's been a big thing, especially in the video streaming world, because it's so difficult now for people to hold more of an attention to a specific thing for longer. You have to, and not you specifically, but the general you have to find a way to get people to come in and be able to sit down and watch 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Same way you have to get them to read 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes of anything, because you have to get them in to do that. And it's really difficult because of just the short attention span. Everyone's like focused on this 10 to 30 second life now, where you need everything in that. You scroll up, done. Scroll up, done. And if you can't get enough in that 10 seconds, then it's not worth your time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of, by the way, I mean, if you do like articles, just go ahead and like hit the American Scouser website, where we don't have any of these weird like clickbait stuff and all that. And it's like well-written articles by, people in the US as well as in the UK as well. We have like kind of like writers from like both sides. And like people don't read as much. You don't get a lot, with that. Even with video, I mean, like you're saying, the attention span is getting shorter and shorter. Like it was like first it was like 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Pretty soon you have like 5 seconds to tell me what you got to say. And that's probably what the problem is. I mean, I have 5 seconds to get you to come my way, whatever I'm going to say. And that's what like the clickbait stuff has been. And it's bad, man. It is really bad. Sergi says before social media, Liverpool had a forum on their official page. The good old forums. I remember those. Do you remember forums?
Some of them.
Okay, yeah. When I was 2, players received abuse, but any personal abuse would have abuser banned from the forum. And I think, here's the thing. Back in the day, when I think Brian Shelton still has the American Online dial-up, by the way, but like you had a dial-up, you had an account, right? You had an American Online or CompuServe or whatever account that you wouldn't know these, but let me tell you how this worked. So you had like one. Right, like so you would go and it was like Mateusz W at CompuServe.com, and that was your account. So if you got banned, well, you're screwed now. It's not like now where you go get, then I'll get Mateusz W1 at CompuServe, because you got to pay for that separately. It's not like you can go to Gmail now and get SirZ at gmail.com and go over there and do abuse under SirZ's name now and stuff. So it's like kind of has changed. It's very easy. So those ways of like kicking people has gone. John's finally what became clickbait. And like even that, we had a couple of posts about like, Yanks talking about soccer and stuff like that. And whatever. I can only imagine when you have like 4 million followers, the kind of crap that you get. And I really don't blame him. Does it matter? Does it say anything for us long term? Because everybody was like, he must be leaving. I'm like, well, why would he do it 2 weeks to go? He would just wait. Nobody like does it early. Does it affect still using the CompuServe email?
SirZ, we know that every single one of your usernames to anything is SirZ at blank. Don't worry. You gave it out yourself.
Do you think it affects his future with the club at all?
I think it could. I don't know. I think I'm trying to remember correctly as well, because I thought I remembered reading, whether it was this morning or last night, there was some article that was posted from Liverpool that sort of distanced Edwards from the Nunez signing, almost as if he's kind of just saying that wasn't his idea. And I don't know if that bodes well for Nunez's future either. But in a way, it would be really weird to give up on the player right now. I think for as much time that we like to give other players, we sometimes don't give. Maybe we have given Nunez enough time.
We have given him a lot of time, man. He's gotten a lot of minutes with it too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking the way you're thinking, mainly because we feel like and we know that we're going to lose our butt on the deal. Like if we if somebody was coming in and giving exactly what we paid for him, I think everybody's taking that money and walking away from the table. Is that fair?
Maybe not everybody. I think maybe
Maybe aside from Nunez, but
more people, a majority of people, yes. I think a majority of people would.
What would make you say, nope, keep going at this? Like, have you seen something aside from efforts and the occasional, there it is. We're talking about the Newcastle game. We were like, I think the biggest disappointment in the Newcastle game afterwards was the fact that we were like, here, see, look at him.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, whack, whack, whack. And it was just like back to the beginning. Again, it was like the same story. Aside from the efforts and obviously his physical ability, I mean, I don't see anything on the pitch that tells me, oh, it's going to come along.
What if he stays on side?
What if they get rid of offside in soccer?
What if Arnie comes in and he's able to make sure that Nunez will never be offside ever again, because he will somehow be able to get it through his head that you are faster than any one of these people on the back line. You can give them 2 steps and you're still going to beat them to the ball. I think I really do admire. I know this is just, maybe it's just more emotionally than anything. I really admire the way that he plays. He plays for the badge. He plays for the club. I know sometimes he likes to almost put too much on himself and try to take the team on 1v11. But I think that's part of it, is that he just wants to play so well, so badly, that he plays himself out of that, unfortunately. Maybe that's what's keeping me in, is that I feel like I see emotionally how much he wants to be here on the pitch, that I would feel bad that if he doesn't get that chance again. I guess, I mean, so strictly from a non-playing perspective, but just a sentimental, emotional perspective, yeah, I do appreciate what he stands for on the pitch, I guess, if you will. Yes, he has some boneheaded moments, and he can lose his temper pretty easily, but I think that just adds to the fieriness of who he is, and that's just Darwin.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it hard, like if he would kind of like went around like, sulking, it would be a lot easier to say, get this bum out of here or whatever. But he does give a lot of effort. But I think in the beginning, we kept saying, well, yeah, you got to be there, though. He's in those situations, though, when he was missing a lot. And so he says hitting the post is unlucky. If they go in, there's a lot of goals there. I mean, I guess, but you can say that for any. I mean, we said that, and I look past. Honestly, my biggest issue is not the misses. My biggest issue is it feels like his overall. And Victor always talks about his upbringing compared to Gakpo, where he's actually educated. Like Gakpo, coming from that culture where players are more educated in the game. So they understand, they compare, for example, well, you're a basketball guy, like NBA players here compared to European players coming over, right? They're like more fundamentally sound. They practice more, play less games, and there's a more focus on the fundamentals and stuff like that. You really get like a European guy who's like missing all the free throws. Whereas over here, it's like it's kind of like learn more like street ball and stuff like that, and then you go to college, you start getting some coaching, but your base really is more physical ability and stuff like that, where he's I think the same way, where he's more like the local NBA player and Gakpo would be the European NBA player, where he's getting the fundamentals. But I think the more I look at Slot's playing style and what he likes, the more Gakpo fits that profile than Nunez. I just have an issue with his like some of his runs, some of his decision making, and like how he would be a part of the buildup and stuff like that. Gakpo seems like a better fit. If you're okay with having, and I don't know if we're a club that is okay with that, having, I don't know, I remember how much he was, 50, 60, 70 million player being your Divock Origi, because I think he's a player for that, where things are not going well, you throw him in there then yes, go cause the chaos, because whatever organized chaos we had wasn't working. Can we afford a player like that? Can a club like Liverpool, who kind of like stays within budgets and doesn't have oil money, afford to have a player on the bench playing the Divock Origi role, but costing that much?
Probably not, right? So that's when it becomes a bit more difficult, because then you have to make that decision, and that decision could come as soon as this summer, right? We're going to have to see. I think the problem as well, though, is that with Mo aging, with Jota having the injury history that he does, that just leaves Gakpo and Diaz then. And so that's also tough to think about, because then whoever you bring in, who are you going to bring in? I think we love to talk about transfers and getting players in, but we don't really know who they can bring in. And especially in terms like we saw with the DM situation, that market is not very good. And so sometimes some windows, there just isn't a market for it. So then you have to go with what you have. And then if you lose the likes of Mo, then you have just Jota and Gakpo, Darwin and Diaz. And then if you lose one of those guys again due to injury or whatever the case, then that gets really thin. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying about Slot's playing style and how Gakpo fits that really well, which is exciting, because Gakpo, he's always been the way he is. He just had a little bad spell, and people like to just hop on the next scapegoat, if you will. So maybe another summer under Slot will turn Nunez into something else. But it's like you're saying, there has to be a growth in the awareness on the pitch, and it's the things like staying onside and making the runs and the decisions that isn't necessarily able to be always coached. You have to almost have that innate sense of understanding to be able to do that. And if you don't, then the level for you. And he's not a bad player by any means. He's just not the level of a title contending 9 that you think you would have on the team.
And I think a lot of it is mental too. I mean, if you are, I'm not an attacker, so Bickler can probably talk a lot more to this, but I can kind of see, as a defender, for example, if you're struggling, right, you kind of, Robertson used to do this a lot. I think it was like last season, for example. If you're struggling and people are constantly running behind you or whatever, as a defender, you kind of tend to almost be a couple more steps than you would, and now you're fucking up the offside line that you're setting up yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like as a center back and stuff. And I think as an attacker, when you're struggling and you're almost like over trying to make sure you're not struggling, that's probably when you're, offside. So it's almost like, even if you know better, you can't think better because of your like mental state, your confidence and stuff like that. I really see that a lot in him, because he does look like an emotional dude, because he plays with emotion. Probably that's why he looks like an emotional dude more than anything else. But yeah, really, like, you see the guy's effort and you really want him to do well. He's one of those players that you really want to root for. And I think that's why people root for him. But then you see the same things over and over again. It's just like, come on, man, when is it going to happen? And you got to figure it's been a year and a half. First he was new, then it was the language. Now it's something else. You might be right. He might get one more season under Slot to decide. But I still feel like that's only because we have invested a lot of money in him. And if somebody knocks on the door and says, hey, whatever you guys paid for him, we'll give it to you guys. Like, let's have him. I think it would be very tempting to say, go ahead, and then turn around to Slot and say, hey, use this money and get the strikers that feel fits your system.
Do you feel like, kind of flip the coin a little bit, because you mentioned what we paid for him, and that's definitely a big part of it. Do you feel like if this was, let's say, a $15 to $20 million signing, do you not think that maybe would be a chance where we would hold on to him because we can see what he could be capable of doing?
Because then you can put him and have him become the Divock Origi. And that was kind of
I
like my
guess.
thing.
Yeah.
Then you can
Yeah.
say, you know what? Yeah, he'll be the guy coming off the bench causing havoc. That's fine. Like there's not as like he can be your Taki or whatever. Like that
Sure.
kind of a player who's gonna come off the bench. But I feel like when you spend so much on a guy, you expect him to be the starter. You don't want to. This is not city oil money, where you can just have like a $60 million for luxury sitting on the side. I think that's where I'm at with that way, and I think you would say it would be a lot easier to say, let's say you paid 15 for him. If somebody comes in and gives you 10, I think it's a lot easier to swallow that 5 million and say, okay, we're gonna go roll the dice on this other winger or something like that. Whereas now, when somebody, you pay 60, somebody comes with 20, you're like, oh man, that is a big pill to swallow.
Yeah.
So you almost feel like you're trying to make it work at that stage, I think. I mean, it's so freaking unfortunate, though. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of Nunez talk now that we were probably going to have a lot of chats about Nunez, and we've had it throughout the season, right? In terms of does he fit or what are we going to do and stuff like that. But you watched that game yesterday. It's probably the best we've played, at least like the first 60 minutes or so, in a long, long time. And I think the substitutions kind of disrupted that more than anything else. And here we are talking about. That's why I was like, the timing is so stupid to go. Like, who watched that game and said, you know what? I'm just gonna go abuse Nunez.
Yeah, and real quick, because I was curious, because you're talking about the pay, and I think it's also really important because of the context, because people like to bring up that Holland costs less than Nunez, but Holland is getting a lot more money weekly, right? So I wanted to just kind of get a look. Darwin Nunez is earning less per week than Ryan Gravenberch. So do we then maybe look at it? Yeah, he might not be the star Nunez level that we want him to be, but even if he's at closer to Divock Origi kind of guy, if he's still only earning less than Ryan Gravenberch, is it still worth it then to have him on his bench? Because then we're looking at it that kind of money, not the money that we paid for him overall, right?
Yeah, because that money is gone. Like
Yeah.
that money is gone and is not coming back. And that's why you would be okay with it. I guess another question is, we're talking like our perspective in terms of like Liverpool's perspective. Is he okay with being there? But then at the same time, you would also look at if the money is already, if you're looking at it that way and you say, hey, that money is already spent that we got it, we gave to Benfica. Now we got to figure out, he's getting this. If he doesn't fit your system, like you do not hang on to. I know new guy's not going to come in and be like, I got to keep Costas now because, he was, like, no, that's not the guy I want. He doesn't fit. I'm going to swap him with this. So why would you insist on keeping somebody if he doesn't fit your system? I mean, these could be conversations. Maybe he's going to shift to the left. Obviously, there's a market for Diaz and stuff like that. There will be a lot of change in the summer. And that could be like one change where he shifts to the left, Gakpo comes in the middle and stuff. But man, let's talk about Gakpo a little bit. Let's talk about something positive a little bit. I've always liked this game. And, like obviously when he came in, he was great too. I know people sometimes give him crap for the way he carries himself. He's just basically like Van Dijk playing forward. Like he has that like too cool for school look, calm as you like thing going, where we like it on defense, but we don't we want a guy like Nunez up top. It's just like fan nature kind of a deal. But man, especially when he's coming in from the left hand side, he is so freaking good that I feel like just put him on the left. But then again, the more I read about slot stuff, the more it feels like he fits that center role for slot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most exciting things is knowing that he can be that huge cog in that machine that Slot could build. And I don't know if it's if it's the rumors of Diaz leaving or if it's whatever the case might be, but it just feels like it's just setting up for Gakpo to be the guy at Liverpool. It almost feels like, but aside from Trent, because I think Trent will always be Liverpool. Like I think as long as he's on the team, I think when you think about the team, you're going to think about Trent because he's local guy. Grew up in the area, went to the academy. Won everything under the sun by the time he was 23, whatever that was. But it just if Mo leaves, that the forward line's going to have to go through someone, and it is exciting to see someone like Gakpo being able to be that guy because he is capable. He has all the tools, right? It's just a matter of making sure you maximize it with what he's able to do.
Yeah, I really like, and as you were talking, I was thinking, does that really add to the frustration of Nunez, for example? I mean, if you think about it, because we talk about, these guys say, oh, I don't read the papers, blah, blah, but I'm sure he hears that Gakpo is a lot better fit to slot system than him. So I'm sure that kind of like bugs him at the same time because, we talk about, oh, Klopp leaving, these guys playing for Klopp. Half the brain is working on next season and thinking, where am I going to be and what am I going to do? I mean, they're human. They have a family. He has a kid. Like, there's a lot of other things to think about. To us, we're like, yeah, just put on the jersey, go out there and play and stuff like that. But if you didn't know where you're going to be, you personally didn't know where you're going to be in 6 months, and not really probably necessarily your choice, that would be a huge distraction.
Yeah.
In what you do at work.
Yeah, absolutely. Any sort of God, what's the word?
Distraction?
Not just any sort of
concern.
I don't know, man. Just next question. Any sort of uncertainty in your life will cause rifts in what you're doing, right? And
it was like talking to my wife for a second. It was just like guessing game. It was like, this word, no, not this word, no.
No, it's just me being an idiot. Any sort of uncertainty, and that's what can bleed through not only you, but can bleed through the locker room, right? I think that was a big thing. I think with the club itself, when we got to March and we still didn't know, we got to early April, we still didn't know who the manager was going to be. And that uncertainty just starts creeping into the locker room, and you're thinking, man, is this going to be the last couple games I have here? And then it sort of spreads throughout everyone. Then that can really have an impact. And I think we saw, whether it was uncertainty, whether it was the pressure, whether it was X or Y, we saw that at the club. So yeah, it's difficult from a basic human level. It's just difficult to go day to day when you're not sure of something of whatever it's going to be.
And I feel like he's in that boat. I mean, you would think so, but just based on performance alone, you were a starter. Now you're coming off the bench, so you already have all that stuff going on. This is with Jota being out, you're coming off the bench and stuff. So I mean, it has to kind of creep in your mind. You hear all this stuff about Slot and all that. See, I do not agree with this at all, by the way. And I've heard a lot of this. I think we were like going back and forth with Sparky yesterday about Gakpo not too good in pressing. Just running fast at people is not pressing. You know who's actually bad at pressing? Nunez. I know he scored with his butt, pressing the goalie. But you look at it yesterday, there was a case where he presses by himself and runs at a person like fast, and they pass around them, and suddenly we're outnumbered in the back. I think Gakpo understands how to press as a team. And yes, his close down speed is not as good as Nunez because he's not as fast as Nunez, but he's a smarter player when it comes to pressing. You got to press as a team all at the same time, and it has to be, in the past, the trigger was usually Bobby or like Sadio, like it would come from there. But there's a trigger in that offense where everybody says, okay, pressing now. I don't see that from Nunez. Like I say, it goes back to that street ball where he's like, I'm just going to run, and everybody's going to say Nunez, because I'm running really fast at people. But these players are too good. You're not pressing a 9-year-old who's going to get like freak out because somebody is running fast at him. They just two passes and you're out of the picture now, and we're outnumbered. Now we can't press because we're outnumbered. They can pass around us. I think that is like the biggest deal. Yes, as Sorzi says, it's an intelligent report to Bobby and Mane. Yes, I mean that's the thing you got to understand, and it's kind of like you got to understand the team play to be able to press. It's just like, everybody has to be on the same page. For the worst press is the half-ass press. Like United does that a lot. I mean, you go back to the games that, we beat them 5-0, like that away game. You watch some of that pressing where individuals are pressing one at a time. That's a dream. That's why people build from the back, because you want a moron like that pressing one at a time that you can just pass around all the way to the top by creating space. So I don't agree with that at all, Saido, that Gakpo is not a good player. I think he's like a very intelligent player overall. But last thing before we go, because we got to talk about him as well, especially after all the crap he got, is Mo. And I talked about, I think I asked you before, like, does his performance really matter for his future? Because if it does, yesterday was a game that said, yeah, this is a guy you want to keep.
Yeah. I think it's difficult because you have your heart and your head kind of thing, and your heart says, yeah, he's a guy that still has time, he still has the ability, he still has, he's a great playmaker. I think if we're able to find a way to use him where he has to dribble less and can just play make more, I think that's even better for him. But then your head says he's aging, the market's only going to get worse for him. You don't want to necessarily run out his contract because then you get absolutely nothing for him like you've done in the past. And so then if you are someone like Edwards, where you're looking at everything with just analytics and not necessarily emotionally, then you have to think that this can't be sustainable, because you can't keep paying the guy $350,000 a week just for him to continue to decline and then not get anything for it. So yeah, it's
who wins, your heads or your hearts?
Neither, because it's too stressful. I think I don't know. I think the real winner. I don't know who the real winner is. There's no real winner. I don't know. It's tough because it's an end of an era for many different reasons, and there could just be a lot of change in the summer that could be really difficult to swallow at first. So I don't know if it's good right now to even have a side in this for me.
Yeah, I'm a little torn too. I think it really depends on if you're going to sell him and what do you have in mind? I mean, that's the replacement cost is probably what matters, right? I mean, if Edwards is looking at these, players that he has his eye on, and he feels like, I can turn Mo into these three guys or something like that he feels will be, a replacement or whatever the case is for like different parts of the pitch, then I can see him going for it. Otherwise, I mean, the ideal scenario to me probably is an extension of a contract where you get best of both worlds. You get Mo another year and you still get something for him. And even if it's instead of 100, it's a 50, it's still 50. And for 50 million for 1 year, you got Mo, basically. And you're not just getting a player, you're getting Mo for like another year kind of a deal. And you can say, hey, be part of this rebuild and stuff like that, I guess. But Sergi says, can we please talk about Harvey and make a case for him? Make a case for him to be unstoppable? No. I mean, I'm just kidding. I mean, he was awesome yesterday. He was just awesome. And I think that's because he gets the concept. He knows when to press. I just feel like he's the guy out there who knows what needs to be done. He reminds me of a smaller, not as strong Henderson in some ways. He understands where to be, what to do, and all that kind of stuff. And, obviously attacking wise, he's very skilled. I guess the main thing yesterday, I don't know what you took from this. I was going to ask the boys tonight too. Were we that good, like Harvey and Elliott and stuff, or Spurs that freaking wide open that, it was almost easy?
Spurs, yeah, they've let in 16 goals in the last 4 games. They've just been bad. They have been really bad, and they've been so open. But part of it is also being able to take advantage of that, and not just getting lucky, if you will, because 2 of the goals did come from Harvey pressing and being able to win the ball back, right? So that part of it is, yes, they might have been open, but at the same time, you also made that happen too. I think there's a little bit of a mixture of both there.
Yeah, and I like how, like, Spurs. This is, God, media, man. Like, Spurs were like this team and stuff like that. Now he's like, he's lost the locker room and stuff. Jesus, like, he was manager of the year like a month ago, and
Yeah.
now he's lost the locker room. Blah blah blah. It's just like, what have you done for me lately? And I think that's with players as well, right? I mean, like, how Sergio, for people, for example, has thrown Soboslai in the recycling bin. People were throwing Gravenberg. John kept pulling him up. People kept throwing him back in and stuff. But I mean, because there's going to be a new manager, it's kind of hard to tell who's undroppable, who's unsellable, and stuff like that. Just really, but I would think these conversations already took place in terms of who we're going to keep, what we're going to do, who we're going to go after, and all that kind of stuff. I hope. Or Edwards is like, don't you worry, I got a plan. You just shine your head and come over here. We got everything figured out, kind of a deal too.
If Elliott had Soboslai's body, I think he'd be one of the best midfielders in the world. It's just
yes.
If he was just a little bit bigger, I think that's the only thing, like you're alluding to. And part of it is just the physicality of it. If he was just a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and there's a chance still. I mean, he's still only 21, right? I mean, it's not like he's gonna massively grow, but he can still put on a little bit. Like Trent's transformation's been unreal, kind of seeing what he was like when he first hit frame and what he's like now. So there's still a chance for Elliott to build a little bit. There's not that much room there, but I think unfortunately for him, if his size was just a little different, he'd really be undroppable. But I think he just gets pushed around a little bit too much, a little too easily.
I think he is an excellent guy to look at Mo. I mean, Mo is extremely strong for how small he really is. I mean, like his upper body strength, lower body strength, and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, dude is in like tip-top shape. I think he has a really good person to look at, and you can kind of tell. I kind of like that going forward, and I thought Elliott did. My concern going into the game yesterday in the pre-match was how that side would defend, but I felt like you already had a pissed off Mo who was running more. And you had Elliott, who was doing like basically Hendo's work for the most part and doing it defensively as well, until we did the changes. And obviously we took Endo out and stuff like that. And, Bajcetic was not ready to go.
Yeah, it was Bajcetic's first game in over a year.
Yeah.
Like, people need to relax. Yeah, obviously the everything was going to break down after you make those.
Yeah, it did break down fast, right? Maybe like faster than everybody thought.
Yeah.
And, the paranoia kicked in. We're like, ooh, what's going to happen here? It's already 4-2 kind of a deal. But it was a fun game to watch, really, like being able to sit back, pass out snacks. And it was like a good day overall. That's kind of like a shame that the same nights the whole Nunez.
Yeah, Liverpool is the best team ever when there's nothing to play for. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the problem, right? Like you're watching it, and first of all, like even though it's like a chill watch, you kind of like, that's the way I am, the competitive spirit. Once the whistle blows, I'm like all in. But part of you is like, oh man, this is awesome, and part of you is like, where the fuck were you guys 2 weeks ago? Is the problem, because that's probably the best we've played. And I don't know like how much of the credit goes to the Spurs, how much of it goes to us, or being rested and not having played in a week or something like that. But yeah, that's probably the best I've seen us play, dominate, create, and stuff like that. Like just the movement and all that. It was a fun watch, definitely. That's for sure. And hopefully there's 2 more of those. But it is Monday. Most of us have to struggle around working. But when you're a prince, you have the day off.
I do also wanted. There's this little stat I came across that I wanted to mention before we leave, which is, I didn't believe it at first because it's pretty impressive. No team in the entire Klopp tenure here has completed the double over us. Even Pep Guardiola, I'm reading here, Wolves and United did the double over City the season that we won the league. Brentford also beat City twice last year, but no team in the entire tenure of Liverpool, of Jurgen Klopp's tenure at Liverpool, has completed the double, which is really impressive when you consider all the amount of games and the rough patches that
especially in the beginning, you would think more than like the latter stages where we wwere good. You would think in the beginning there would be a couple of those.
Yeah, so the other fans, they'll never sing that. So yeah, they can fuck off there.
Oh man. So who's getting groomed today? What's the plan for this fine Monday for a prince?
You know what? No grooming, but my mom and my stepdad are in Jamaica, so I'm dog sitting for them. So I'm actually heading over to their house. Um, I said in the Premier League. Sorry, responding to this.
Sir Z, see, always got to pick on something. I swear.
I said in the Premier League. Something that we should be celebrating that even Pep's Magical City couldn't do. And Cersei's like, well, actually,
speaking of, by the way, speaking of Cersei, I know they are working on. We have Rich Kramer, who's also in the field as well of like mental health and stuff. And I think like talking about all this Nunez stuff, it does probably make it pretty relevant that they're going to be recording for Patreon some stuff about like mental health and like sports and stuff. I'm actually looking forward to that. Because it's it's an interesting trio and a lot of knowledge there. We could show up there and just talk what we think, but actually people who know what they're talking about is going to be talking there, so that's got like a good but then again, Cersei admits he has a 3-second attention span, so good luck to Gordo, who's going to be hosting that show. Good thing I'm not going to be hosting that show. What was the question again? Okay, so what are we doing? Dog sitting, you said?
Dog sitting. So
do the two dogs get along?
Yes, they do, which is fantastic. So I'm taking my dog over there, and I'm spending the week there. So
so you're going over there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because Michelle works from home, and having both the dogs here would be.
So you're more like house sitting that has a dog in it.
That's true. No, you're right. It is house sitting, and bringing my dog along. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, minus not having Michelle there, which is not the best.
Probably the best of the worlds for Michelle, though. So
she definitely deserves a break from me. That's for sure.
From you and the dog, yeah. That just some peace and quiet. So I'm assuming I'm gonna see a lot of Matush profile playing The Sims on Steam.
Maybe, yeah. I was gonna say, because I thought about taking my PC, and I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. But I might. I have nothing to do over there, so we'll find out.
Oh man, well, you can do. I'll get you some stuff to do for American Scouts, so don't worry. If you need work to do, I'll hook you up. I'll hook you up. But hey, thanks as always for those listening, chiming in. I think we had an issue with like Facebook Live today, but obviously we're on like, I don't know why, but something with StreamYard.
It's a lot. Zuckerberg
must have said something, to piss them off. But I'll be back tonight with the gang, Bickler and Galley, 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the game. We'll probably touch up on some of like the Nunez and slot stuff and all that kind of stuff as well, and some of the performances. But do tune in then. You enjoy your house sitting. Some of us will work, and then I'll see you guys tonight. Have an excellent week, everybody. Take care.